Good morning! I am WaywornWyrm, and welcome to my channel. Not too long ago, I was going through a folder I have on my desktop labeled Stuff to Save, and it is the various flotsam and jetsam from former computers and hard drives that have died. And as I was going through it, I found several short stories, some of which are completed and some of which are not. But we're going to go through those. I'm going to read these stories out on the channel, and I hope you enjoy. This is going to be the first of the small series of partially completed stories that I mentioned earlier. And this one ends very abruptly, and I apologize for that in advance. But this is written out as the transcript of what is being called the second Ross 128 incident. It is an event that happened while I was playing a game called Aurora, which is a wonderful and completely 100% free game, 4X game that you can find, and I will link in the description below. And let's just get into it. This is Lieutenant Ross Buckley of the Terran Federation Space Navy. This is the inquiry of Commander Toby Dobson of the Davis-class jump destroyer TFSN York of the second Ross 128 incident. Conducting this inquiry is Rear Admiral Isaac Jennings, head of the TFSN Fleet Command, Commodore Marcus Law, head of communications of the TSFN, Commander Natasha Sims, head of operations of the TFSN, and Commander Sophia Bevan, head of intelligence for the TFSN. R.A. Jen. Please begin by summarizing the events in question, Commander Dobson. C. Dobb. I was put in command of the hastily built Ross Liberation Task Group, consisting of the Davis-class jump destroyers York and Valencia. After 3 months group training, we were sent with the Olympus-class jump scout Werewolf. This is the second Olympus-class jump scout named Werewolf. The first one was commanded by Commander Ross Davis. This one was commanded by Commander Isabel Vincent. We were sent to the Ross 128 jump point. There were five known contacts of the Hauptmann designation that had destroyed the first werewolf several months before. My orders were to find and destroy all contacts, and possibly learn something about these aliens. We jumped at about 1000 Zulu and waited almost an hour to ensure full sensor capability after the jump. Com Law. Why did you wait so long? Reports indicate that full sensor capability is regained within minutes of jumping. C. Dobb. We know that now. Remember, at the time of this operation, there had only been a handful of jumps ever conducted by human forces, and all of them had been done by Commander Davis with only one ship. This was the first time multiple ships were jumping, all separately of course, through a jump point, and it was being done with known hostiles somewhere on the other side. As our sensors cleared, we noticed the system, and about halfway between the jump point and the system proper, we found the apparently untouched wreckage of the original werewolf. At this time, I ordered myself and Commander Tyler of the Valencia to start heading toward the wreckage at 4,545 kilometers per second, hoping the hostiles were still there. I also ordered that Commander Vincent follow an hour later at 4,000 kilometers a second, with her ship's active sensors engaged. C. Sims, why so much slower than your ships, Commander, and why have the sensors on? C. Dob, I will answer the second question first if you don't mind. C. Sims, by all means. C. Dob, I had the sensors on the trailing ship active because what little information had made it back to command of the first Ross 128 incident indicated that Commander Davis had had his sensors active from the time of the jump to the time of the attack. As for the first question, it served two purposes. The first was that I assumed the hostiles were waiting near the wreckage of the werewolf, rather than wherever they had been when Davis had been attacked, and it would allow Commander Vincent to have a shorter distance to travel when she turned tail at the time of this attack that we were baiting, as well as keeping her ship as far from the fighting as it could be. The second reason was I assumed the hostiles were at least as intelligent as we are. In hindsight, that may have been a wrong assumption. I'm not sure. And I was hoping they would realize that it was the same type of ship as the first werewolf and think that it was going slower due to cautiousness because of a lack of escort. My goal was to have all the hostiles start by targeting the werewolf and not see the York or Valencia until it was too late to retarget, and hopefully the werewolf was far enough away that it could outrun their missiles. R.A. Jen. And when was contact made? C. Dob. Contact was made at approximately 1420 Zulu. The EM sensor officer informed me that we were being actively pinged, and judging by the strength of the pinging, we had been for about 5 or 10 minutes. It was the signature of Hauptmann 002. C. Bev. And how were you able to determine that? C. Dob. Again, it was in the intelligence report that covered the first encounter. At that point, the werewolf turned around and opened up her engines full, and both the York and Valencia turned on their active sensors, expecting to see at least Hauptmann 002 and start maneuvering into firing range. C. Bev. Did you? C. Dob. No. We were getting enough of a signature to determine that Hauptmann 002 through Hauptmann 005 were closing in on us, but not enough to get a solid lock on any of them. Comlaw. What were you able to get? C. Dob. Just faint readings that matched the signatures of those 4 ships. It was about 15 minutes later that we got our first locks. C. Sim. Locks? C. Dob. Our missile sensors picked up 5 salvos of 11 large missiles each. To this day, I can only guess where they came from, but they match the contact data that Commander Davis sent in his last moments. As soon as those contacts showed up, I ordered all non-essential personnel to the escape pods and had them prep the pods on both ships. I ordered our anti-missile missiles prepped and on their fire controls, and to have them fire as soon as possible. I thought we were all dead. Then I watched every missile hit the Valencia. Not a single one missed, and our missiles never fired. RHN. Why? You should have had time for 1 or 2 salvos, judging by the speed of our missile launchers and the range of our anti-missile sensors. C-Dob, that wouldn't have made much of a difference. If we had gotten off 2 salvos, which I doubt, and all of them had hit, I would stake my command on that being impossible at the time. we would have shot down 8 of the 55. As for why we never fired, our crews were too green. They had no experience in a combat situation and had minuscule time in simulations. 3 months is not long enough to get a crew comfortable enough to be able to fire at peak efficiency. Our ships need well over a year of training to ensure that they are comfortable enough at their commands. And unfortunately, that is where that story ends. If I remember right from this particular incident, the Valencia was the only ship that was destroyed. No, the York was also destroyed, but it had gotten far enough that the werewolf was able to turn back around and rescue the crew, which included Commander Dobbs. Commander Dobson. I also remember that I never went back to Ross 128 in that game. So I hope you enjoyed this first story, and again, they're all going to be short, and a fair number of them are going to end some degree of semi-abruptly. I think this is the one with the most abrupt ending, but don't hold me to that. With that all said, tune in later today for an announcement I have, and thank you for listening.